Okay, moving on here, I wanted to talk to you about Huawei because we've gotten
Let's do
a
it.
ton of listeners that talk
Yeah.
to us about it, and I think it's fascinating. Just fresh today. So, Huawei has expected ties to front companies in Iran and Syria. This is what the new documents reveal. Now, in our previous podcast, Matt, you had mentioned this, but we didn't really have any proof about it. Now they're starting the court case against their executive, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about it. The U.S. case against Chief Financial Officer of China's Huawei Technologies, who was arrested in Canada last month, centers on the company's suspected ties to two obscure companies. One is a telecom equipment seller that operates in Tehran, so that's in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
The
That's the
other is
capital of Iran. Yeah.
that's right. The other is the firm's owner, a holding company registered in Mauritius. U.S. authorities allege that the CFO, Meng Wanzhou, deceived international banks into clearing transactions with Iran by claiming that the two companies were independent of Huawei, when in fact Huawei controlled them the whole time. So Huawei's maintained that the two are independent. One's an equipment seller, and but the corporate filings say that it's actually the same. This is kind of what they're busting her on. I remember when we were talking about it earlier, I thought, this isn't really fair. Here is this awesome Chinese company that's getting popular, and here we are saying you should buy Apple and American companies, and
Mm-hmm.
it kind of seems suspicious to me when they arrested her. But when
Right.
you look at the books, it seems like it's pointing to them using companies in Syria and Iran, which were both not sanctioned at the time.
So, first of all, these allegations have to be proven in court. And
Right,
I
it's not
think,
proven yet. Yeah.
and that's the most important thing, that when it comes to the judicial system, it's there's got to be a fair trial and it's got to be proven in court. So, you can say these things transpired and that they are connected. I think we've got to give Huawei a chance to put forward their story. However, the court documents are quite damning. I had previously talked about the connections to Iran, but we had no idea about the connections to where was the other one?
Syria,
To Syria.
and
Yeah,
Mauritius.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's insane, right?
from what
So,
I read, and if this is proven in court, it is quite damning, is that although Huawei is claiming that these two companies, Skycom and what was the other one,
mhm,
Canicula Holdings Ltd,
mhm.
Huawei's claiming that they are not part of Huawei. However, it's Huawei executives that had signing authorities
Right.
on both those companies. And Meng Wanzhou actually sat on the board. She might have even been the president of the board for Skycom. And we knew that when she got arrested at the beginning, but we did not know about Canicula and its ties. So,
Well, here's the
yeah,
result of it. The result is that U.S. authorities say that banks cleared hundreds of millions of dollars of transactions that potentially violated economic sanctions that Washington had in place at the time. And so this was kind of a backdoor for them to get around all of these sanctions that were
yeah,
there.
and
It's
secure
really shady.
funding, and it was a way for them to move money out. And so, if they were moving money out of Iran or Syria, they did it through these shell companies, if that's what they turn out to have been, and then move that into Huawei Holdings. So, that's another thing that needs to be proven. You got to follow the money. Yes, you can say, look, all the actors, all the people, they're all the same. This person who had signing authority is a Huawei executive. This person who was sitting on the board was a Huawei executive. But you also need to follow the money. So you're allowed to do side hustles, right? We've talked about that before. And
Mhm.
if one of your side hustles is a company in Iran, who cares?
Yeah.
So,
Didn't you know I have a side hustle over there in Tehran?
but if it can be proven that your side hustle is actually a shell for your main company, Now that company is in trouble because now your company that you actually work for is involved, and I think that's what's going to be coming out in the court documents. So
It
yeah,
sounds like this takes a lot of clever accounting, right? And it
oh
sounds
sure,
like it's a little bit like money laundering in a way, but in an international way. It's really
yeah.
interesting to me to read about this and to learn more about this. It's so complicated, but hopefully, just talking this through is helping everyone understand it a little bit more.
Absolutely. So let's see what happens. And I guess here's just another side thing. And so let's get
Yeah.
a little political, and I'm sure we're going to get some angry comments on this. But there's been political issues with Canada and China. So there have been two high-profile Canadians that have been arrested in Canada since then. It was almost the very next
Canadians
day.
in China, right?
Yeah, sorry, Canadians arrested in China. One a former diplomat, another one is a high-profile individual that brings tourist groups through, and they were both arrested and very nebulous charges. So, what was it? It's not treason; it was security risks. Is what they charged them with. Now, most countries have these laws that say I can arrest somebody if I feel like they're a terrorist or they're a security threat. And I mean, we could even get into what President Trump is trying to do tonight when he gets on and says that there's a state of emergency and he might try to build his wall and fund it that way.
Oh my
So
gosh,
let's
yeah.
just avoid that comment because this isn't a political podcast.
Or maybe
But
it is. Yeah.
maybe it is now.
Maybe it is. Don't build
But
the wall.
yeah, what we've
Yeah.
got going on here is there is some political stuff going on, and there are innocent people that are being caught up in it. And there was a Canadian delegation in China just yesterday trying to get some movement on freeing these individuals. And basically, from what I was able to understand, and this is where some of our readers may disagree, but it sure sounds like China says this is a political issue. Whereas Canada is saying, no, this is not a political issue. This isn't the West versus China. This isn't Canada and its best friend, the United States, teaming up on China. This is a legal issue where there is a legal concern and an arrest or a warrant that was put out, and all we're doing is fulfilling our legal obligations. This is not a way for us to support the U.S. in strong arming China in the trade war that's going on. So Canada's point, this is not political, this is legal. China's saying, no, this is purely political, and we've got your people too. So
Interesting.
that's kind of where it's at.
Well, it's so weird because these two countries are normally so chill. Also, the saddest part about all these sanctions, and the thing I'm the most happy about, is that I still get to eat the delicious food from all of the countries. For example,
That was a delicious Chinese food that was never invented in China.
like what's that beef one called in Alberta that you guys eat?
Oh yeah, we got
Ginger
beef.
beef. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
so
Canadian
delicious.
treat.
Kung Pao chicken was never made in China.
Right.
Like,
I think that, and then, well, I'll tell you one thing though, Iranian
yeah.
food is really good. We have a place called Taste of Tehran in West LA.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember Anthony Bourdain? He died. He was
Yeah,
on CNN.
absolutely. Yeah.
That was one of his favorite restaurants in Los Angeles.
Ah,
And I'll
he
tell
liked
you
wine.
what,
Yeah.
if the food tastes anything like that in Iran,
Yeah.
I'm there. I don't care what kind of sanctions are there. I'm there.
Oh, I got to tell you, when I was a kid, do you remember my buddy Shaheen growing
Yes.
up? So he was born in Iran.
Oh,
And
okay.
his mother's actually British and his father was Iranian. And anyways, the food that they would make, I would always eat over there because they made these awesome kebabs that were just to die for.
Ooh,
It
that
was
sounds.
awesome.
Why
Yeah.
can't I do stuff like that?